Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Zanetti. I'm a stormwater and recycling educator for the Muncie Sanitary District. And I also help lead and coordinate the White River cleanup. This is a crew leader training that we're going to cover the different responsibilities of a crew leader and talk about the plans for this year's White River cleanup. So I'm going to share my screen here. So this is the 15th annual White River cleanup. We've been doing this for over 15 years. The ones before that were not as big. They were more section cleanups, but we've been spending quite a few years trying to address cleaning up the White River, removing debris and litter and tires and all of those types of things. And this is the 15th year, so it's a very special year that we're getting to do this. So this is a training for anyone who's interested in being a crew leader to help us with communications and making sure the cleanup goes smoothly. This is a map of this year's cleanup. So we have 15 sections. So there's quite a few sections. We clean over 15 miles of river, and we cover a lot of ground. So we have canoe routes and walking routes. So this map, indicates the blue and it indicates canoe drops and canoe routes. And then walking groups are purple. And then trash drops are marked by these orange icons. We added a new route this year with Memorial Avenue. We're hoping to do Memorial Avenue to Ribble Avenue, which is a pretty long stretch. And it hasn't been done before. So we think there's a lot of trash there, but we're able to do that this year because Indiana American Water did do some work on their dam where it's basically a fish ladder now. It's easier to portage across, and we're going to be able to travel that route and make sure that we're picking up trash and stuff like that. A lot of the other routes are common routes that we do and have done in the past. And so the role of the crew leader is to basically help oversee each section and be our communications person and our point person back to headquarters and mobile command. So we know when to pick you up, provide transportation, how to get the volunteers back. And then you're also answering any questions that volunteers might have and making sure that everyone stays safe and has a good time during the cleanup. And this is a large cleanup. In the past, we've had anywhere from 250 to 500 people participate. So it's a pretty large service day in our community. And we just want to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe and communicating with people that we need to communicate with and making sure that we get a lot done. And then we come back and have lunch and enjoy ourselves and make it a successful event. So crew leaders are super important. Like right now, we actually don't have very many. Our goal every year is to have at least 30. And right now we have 6 or 7 people committed, and we're pretty close to the cleanup. So if you're interested or just thinking about being a crew leader, this training's for you. And it's not a tough position. There's some responsibilities associated with it, but a lot of people that do it, they return every year and do it year after year and get involved and stay involved. And so that's who we're looking for. And your role is super vital and important, and we appreciate everyone that does it. And so I have just kind of a acronym called CASTLE that is named after Castle House. So if you've ever cleaned the White River, or if you know about the Castle House in Muncie, this is in honor of it. So communication, attendance, safety, trash drop, lead, and enjoy. And so just a few points to relate to that. So communication, know your group number, which section that is. That's pretty important for our mobile command. We have volunteers from the ham radio clubs in East Central Indiana that come and participate in the cleanup, and they go above and beyond to help us with our communications. So knowing your group number is super important. And all communications need to include your group number. If you were to call back or send messages, you want to say, hey, this is such and such from section 2 or section 3, or whatever that group number is that you're associated with. Be sure everyone knows in your group to let somebody know if they leave early. Those driving their own vehicles still need to follow the rules and let someone know if they leave. In the past, we've had issues with people leaving in the middle of the cleanup and not telling a crew leader, and then you think that you're missing people, especially on those canoe routes. They can be quite long, and you could spend a couple hours out in a canoe. And if you were to pull your canoe over and put it on private property and just leave and find a ride or something like that, that causes a lot of miscommunication and complications, because then we got to figure out how to get the canoe, the trash, and then we think, we maybe don't have two people, or they're still in the backs trying to get something cleaned up. So make sure that people know that if they do a certain route, they need to stay the entire route, and that we'll provide the transportation back to headquarters, then they can get to their car. If they don't have a whole lot of time and they can only be there for a little bit, tell them to do the West Side Park cleanup route, where they can easily get back to their car and it's not an issue. And then communicating with MCOM ECI, that's the volunteer ham group, letting them know about your correspondence, that you made it to your location, that you need to be picked up. If you need any assistance with anything, you're going to have contact information for them, and you're letting them know any sort of communications that need their central command. So everything's going back to them, and then they'll put it out to where it needs to go. And then, so what the biggest thing is also notifying them when you're ready for your transportation back to West Side Park. We partner with MITS and Canoe Country. They provide buses, and we transport you to your spot and then back to headquarters. So, and then that's my cell phone. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always call and text me after you've tried to attempt to communicate with MCOM ECI. But my number's there too, just in case, and you'll have that the day of the cleanup. So communication is important. Attendance, taking a head count, knowing how many people are in your group. So some groups are pretty large, so it can be challenging, but you want to try to have that number with you. And sometimes the best way to do that is after they get off the bus, because sometimes buses will be mixed with two different sections. So make sure you're counting them when they get off the bus, so you're knowing how many people you have when you start that section cleanup. Then always obviously let us know if someone's missing or if you have any issues. And then, you are encouraged to wear a mask on the bus if you'd like. There is still COVID protocols. It's not mandatory, but some people encourage it, and some people do wear a mask on the bus. So that's something to think about as well. And then again, just make sure you're keeping that head count, knowing your numbers, especially if you're out in a canoe floating, because sometimes your canoes can get separated a little bit. But always know your number and your head count. Write it down, bring a pad and paper, put it in your cell phone or anything like that, and just make sure that you have that number, so you always kind of know with your communications. Safety, always discuss like a first aid plan or an emergency plan for a minor incident. Contact our communications team at MCOM ECI at headquarters. That's if you have any questions, or if it's a minor incident, you just, maybe you need a Band-Aid or something like that, go ahead and contact us and we can send somebody out to you. And obviously for any severe injuries or emergencies, you want to call 911. Now, the big thing with calling 911 is that you don't remove the person who's injured from the location or the site. Send someone to the road to flag down the paramedics. So we had an incident one time where somebody got stung by bees and they were allergic and they didn't have an EpiPen. And so they called us. We sent emergency responders to them, but then they'd hopped in a gator and drove to us. And so they were in the opposite spot that the emergency responders went to. And luckily, that person was okay, but that's an issue we want to avoid. So if it is an emergency and you call 911, stay put and ask for help or paramedics to help get to you, or people to flag them down so they can get to you. And, just use your best judgment there. Volunteers should stay away from log jams and downed trees. That's something that you don't want to get on. They're very dangerous. They can shift. You're going to find them next to bridges in certain areas or bends in the river. And you just want to avoid them because they're dangerous and we don't want anyone to get hurt. You also want to stay off train trestles. They're very dangerous and no one should climb or walk on them, and they're active. So trains could be, you know, driving across them at any time. So let's stay off those and make sure everyone else knows that. Discuss your hazards. So syringes, needles, barrel drums, sharp metal, snakes, beehives, poison ivy, broken glass. We actually have found meth labs. So I'll show some pictures of that. And then there's mussel silos. There aren't any currently in the river. In years past, we've had a few where they were introducing native mussels to the river. There isn't any this year, so you don't have to worry about that. And then there's zebra mussels, which is an exotic mussel. They're smaller and they can be sharp. And it's also something you don't want to transport to another water body. So zebra mussels, why should you be concerned? It's a destructive invasive species. That's what they look like. And they pose an ecological threat to aquatic life. They can damage boats and water systems because they attach to things, and then they just have sharp shells. So we want to, just watch where we're walking. We want to wear shoes. We don't want to walk barefoot. And then we also, again, you want to clean off all of your shoes and things like that to make sure you're not transporting this invasive species to another water body. Meth Labs, it's mentioned, something that we found before. And so things that you want to look for are any sort of plastic containers with tubing coming out of them. So, these are pictures of things that have been found, not necessarily what we have found, but what other communities have found. And, you'll see chemical bottles, empty bottles, Sudafed, but typically what we find is these bottles with tubes in it. And so anytime you see that, you do not want to touch it. It's dangerous to touch. You want to immediately call headquarters and let us know, and then we will call 911 and we will make sure the authorities come out and investigate it and figure out what's best to do with that. So don't ever touch anything that looks like a meth lab. Always call us and let us know that you found one, what the location is. Send us a picture via text, and we can help find the right authorities to address that. And then sharp metal, that's something that we've come across. So these are some pieces that we pulled out of a river cleanup, and you can see right here, this is pretty sharp metal and it's rusty and it's dangerous. So always wear gloves. We give out gloves that have rubber membrane surfaces that kind of help with protection. But if it's too dangerous, leave it and let me know about it, and we'll send somebody out at another time or a crew out to get it. If you can let me know the picture and the location of it, so we can use different equipment if we need to. But just be very careful. There will be old, sharp, potential metal or things that, if it's too heavy or hard to get to, go ahead and leave it and let me know about it, and use your best judgment and be careful, and let your volunteers know that. Trash job, super important to know that when you have bags of trash or materials, that if you're on a canoe route, you just want to put it in your canoe and drag it to the end. Don't put it halfway through. Always put it at the end when you see the trash sign. Trash and tire must be in two separate piles and at designated locations. And there'll be a sign that says, put your trash here, trash drop. So put your trash there, and then tires next to it in a separate pile. Try to rinse those tires out as best you can. But it's not absolutely necessary that they're clean. But you want to have two piles and you want to put them at the trash drop signs. If you're on a walking route, you're going to want to, if it's a big item, you're going to want to flag down a gator that's going up and down the greenway, and you want to throw materials and stuff into that, the bigger stuff, and then they'll take it to the trash drop. But we want to make sure we know where all the trash is going so we can pick it up. And as I mentioned, wash those tires out if you can, and put them in a separate pile. And again, when your canoe is full, keep going and then help somebody else fill up their canoe. But make sure that canoe makes it to the end, to the trash drop, because if you just lay trash halfway through on some of those rural routes, it's private property and we won't be able to get to it. So make sure you're getting that all the way to the end. And then lead. Review the volunteer checklist with your volunteers. We'll hand those out the day of. That just is a run through of what I'm running through now, that tells people to be careful, that tells them what to look for if they find certain things, who to talk to, who to communicate with, and all those types of things. Ask your group if there's any different experience levels. Some people may have never been in a canoe. Mix them with somebody that has. Some people, have never done the cleanup, and then you might have some people in the group that have done it for 5 or 6 years. Try to encourage those who have experience to help you with your responsibilities. And usually people are more than willing to, and use the buddy system as well, especially, with the canoes. Obviously, you're having 2 people per canoe. So, but try to utilize the experience in your group as well. And always, if you don't have 2 crew leaders, try to put someone experienced in the back to make sure that they're the last person in the back, and that you could be in the front, or it could be vice versa. But try to make sure that there's someone in the front and in the back of the group. So as that group's moving, you always have 2 people that are kind of guiding that. And then again, make sure trash goes in the right location. Encourage people to put small stuff in the trash bag. Large stuff can be put in the canoe or picked up by a gator to be taken to that trash drop. And then one of the big things is actually encourage your volunteers to get in the river, and to get up in the banks of the river, into the brush, and look for materials. But look in the river because it's low, it's clear, and you should be able to find materials in the actual river. A lot of the mowed portions for the walking routes, they pick up the trash on a weekly basis, litter and things like that. So there may not be a lot. We really want people to get in the river and clean it up as best they can, and look for items and things that might be lodged in there under some sediment and stuff like that. So now you don't want to get all the way up on the banks, because sometimes it's private property, especially on the rural routes, in Yorktown to Elville. So don't climb up onto properties and get things or items. But just on the banks, it's okay to grab some stuff if you see it, but try not to take people's belongings. And another thing is, don't take people's belongings that may be under a bridge, or someone from the unhoused community might have something rolled up in a bag under a bridge, staying dry, and they're coming back to it. Or there might be a tent with personal items. Those are things that you'll obviously notice that somebody's coming back for. You need to leave those alone, let those be. You don't want to take anyone's personal belongings. We're just there to pick up the litter and debris and stuff like that. And so you may come across that. Just make sure your volunteers know to leave that stuff alone. And then lastly, enjoy. Make sure you're enjoying yourself. Have a good time. I know that we cover a lot of this stuff, and it might seem a little intimidating or scary, but it's not. We just go over things that we've experienced, and this is the 15th year. So these are things that just help make sure that it's a successful cleanup, and making sure people are aware of certain things. It's always important that people, have a plan, have a first aid, kit, or, plan to do something if somebody does get injured, and that people know what to look for and what to be aware of. So, that's just something that we like to cover, so people are ready to volunteer. But also, we want you to enjoy yourself. The river is amazing. It's something that really makes Muncie and Delaware County special, and a lot of people come to enjoy it. And so while you're volunteering and helping us be good stewards, we also want you to enjoy yourself and have a good time, and come back and eat lunch with maybe new friends and people that you've met. But we couldn't do it without you, and we really appreciate all the many things that you do. And so enjoy yourself, have a good time, and we're just grateful that you're willing to spend the day with us and helping us clean the river. Like I